The world outside is growing quiet, and a story is waiting for you in the stillness. Welcome to Midnight Murmurs Studio, your safe harbor from the noise of the day. Find a comfortable place, close your eyes, and let the story begin. Before our story begins, a gentle reminder for your peaceful rest. For the deepest sleep, it's best to keep your phone at a safe distance from your head. So please take a moment to place your phone on a nearby table or chair. And while it's in your hand for this last moment, a quick tap on like and subscribe becomes a quiet signal to us, a soft murmur in the dark that lets us know these stories are a comfort to you. It's what keeps our studio going. Thank you for that. Now, settle in the ancient city of Ravenport, where the buildings leaned against each other like tired old men, and the fog rolled in from the river every evening, there was a district known as the Quarter of Ink. It was a quiet place. No carriages rattled loudly here. People spoke in hushed tones. The air always smelled faintly of oak gall, crushed berries, and beeswax. At the end of a narrow, winding lane stood a building that looked more like a fortress of books than a shop. It was built of dark stone, with narrow windows that glowed with a steady amber light. The brass plaque on the door was polished but simple. Simeon's Scriptorium, words found here. Simeon was the last of the great scribes. He was a man who seemed to be made of the very materials he worked with. His skin had the texture of old vellum. His hair was the color of white paper, and his fingers were permanently stained with midnight blue and sepia ink. He wore a velvet robe that whispered when he moved, and he lived his life to the rhythm of the dipping quill. Inside the scriptorium, time moved at the speed of handwriting. The walls were lined floor to ceiling with scrolls, leather-bound tomes, and stacks of handmade paper. There were no ticking clocks here. Time was measured by how long it took a candle to burn down an inch. To the outside world, Simeon was just a calligrapher who wrote wedding invitations or formal decrees. But the desperate souls who sought him out knew better. They knew that Simeon didn't just write words on paper. He could rewrite the narrative of a confused mind. It was a stormy Thursday night. The rain drummed relentlessly against the slate roof, a chaotic rhythm that usually soothed Simeon. Tat, tat, tat. He was sitting at his slanted desk, grinding a stick of soot ink against a slate stone. Grind, grind, grind. It was a meditative sound. He added a drop of water. The black liquid swirled, thick and glossy. The heavy oak door groaned open. A gust of wet wind blew in, fluttering the papers on the drying rack. A young woman stepped inside. She was drenched, her coat heavy with water. But it was her eyes that caught Simeon's attention. They were wide, frantic, and exhausted. She looked like someone who had been running from a ghost. "I can't hear them anymore," she whispered, not even saying hello. Simeon stopped grinding. He looked up slowly. "You can't hear what, my child?" "The words," she said, her voice cracking. I am Elara. I was a novelist. People said I had a gift, but for the last year, silence. I sit at my desk and the page stays white. It mocks me. The silence is so loud it screams." She walked closer, clutching a leather notebook to her chest. "I have tried everything. Coffee, travel, isolation. Nothing works. The well is dry. I feel empty." Simeon wiped his inky fingers on a rag. He stood up and walked around the desk. He didn't look at her with pity. He looked at her with recognition. "The well is not dry, Elara. The water is just muddy. You are trying to force the river to flow upstream." "Keep the wet coat," Simeon commanded gently. "You cannot write with cold shoulders." Elara obeyed. She hung her coat by the fire that crackled in the stone hearth. The warmth of the room hit her instantly, a dry, comfortable heat that smelled of burning cedar logs and old leather. It was the smell of a library intensified. "Sit here," Simeon pointed to a high wooden stool near his desk. Elara sat. She looked at the desk. It was cluttered yet organized. There were jars of pigment, lapis lazuli blue, cinnabar red, ochre yellow. There were quills made from goose, swan, and crow feathers. There were knives for sharpening. "You are trying to create," Simeon murmured, sitting back down. "That is your mistake. You think the words come from you. They do not. They come through you. You are not the source. You are the vessel. And right now, the vessel is cluttered with noise." He picked up a sheet of paper. It wasn't the smooth, bleached white paper Elara was used to. It was textured, creamy, with ragged edges. "This is handmade cotton paper," Simeon said, running a finger over it. Swish, swish. "It has a grain. It has a voice. Listen." He rubbed the paper again. It made a rough, whispering sound. "Before we write a single word," Simeon said, "we must prepare the instruments. Writing is not about the brain. It is about the hand, the eye, and the breath. Tonight, you will not write a novel. You will simply learn to hold the pen." Elara frowned. "I know how to hold a pen. I've written 3 books." "You know how to grip," Simeon corrected. "You hold the pen like a weapon. You are fighting the page.
Look at your hand." Elara looked. Her hand was clenched into a fist, knuckles white. She hadn't even realized she was doing it. "Relax," Simeon whispered. "Let the hand fall open." He handed her a quill. It was a long, white swan feather, balanced perfectly. It felt incredibly light, almost weightless compared to her heavy fountain pens. "Do not squeeze it," Simeon instructed. "Balance it. It should rest on your finger like a bird on a branch. If you squeeze, the bird flies away." Elara tried. Her hand trembled. The anxiety was a physical thing, a vibration in her nerves. "I'm scared," she admitted. "What if nothing comes out?" "Then we will enjoy the silence," Simeon smiled. "But first, we must make the ink. You cannot write with store-bought ink tonight. You need the ink of the deep." He pushed the slate stone and the grinding stick towards her. "Grind," he said. "Do not think about words. Just think of the black. Watch the solid turn to liquid. Listen to the stone." Elara took the stick. She felt foolish at first, but as she began to grind, scritch, 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 the repetitive motion gave her frantic hands something to do. She watched the black pool form. It was dark as midnight, dark as the bottom of a well. It was mesmerizing. Simeon watched her. He knew that the cure for writer's block wasn't inspiration. It was ritual. The mind needed to be tricked into calmness by the body. "Keep grinding." Simeon's voice became a low drone, blending with the rain outside. "Round and round. Patience is the solvent. Dissolve the worry into the ink." Elara's shoulders dropped an inch. The room felt smaller, safer. The world outside the Scriptorium ceased to exist. There was only the fire, the smell of cedar, and the black, swirling pool of ink.
The ink was ready. It sat in the slate well, thick, glossy, and impossibly black. It smelled of earth and soot, a primitive scent that predated printed books. "Now," Simeon whispered, the sound blending with the rain outside, "feed the bird." Elara held the swan quill. She lowered the tip into the ink. She didn't just dunk it, she let it drink. She watched as the black liquid defied gravity, traveling up the hollow shaft of the feather, the reservoir, via capillary action. It was a small miracle of physics. "Lift it gently," Simeon guided. "Tap it once against the side." A single excess drop fell back into the well. "The pen is now alive," Simeon said. "It carries a heartbeat of ink. Your job is to release it onto the paper without killing it." Elara moved her hand to the paper. Her instinct was to write a sentence, to explain her pain, to write, "Help me." "No words," Simeon stopped her. "Words carry weight. Words carry judgment. Tonight we draw breath. Draw a straight line, just one." Elara placed the nib on the textured cotton paper. She felt the scratchiness of the surface through the quill. It wasn't smooth like glass. It had a landscape. She pulled the pen down. The sound was louder than she expected. It was a raw, tactile sound. The metal nib caught the fibers of the paper, releasing the ink in a controlled flow. A thick, wet, black line appeared, glistening in the candlelight. "Breathe out," Simeon murmured. Elara realized she had been holding her breath. She exhaled as she finished the line. "Again," Simeon commanded, "parallel to the first. Keep the distance even. The space between the lines is as important as the ink itself." Elara dipped the pen again. She drew another line, and another. At first, her lines were shaky. They wavered like her confidence. But Simeon didn't correct her. He just kept the rhythm. Down, lift, dip, down, lift. Row by row, the page began to fill with vertical black lines. It looked like a field of wheat or rain falling in the dark. Elara watched the ink dry. It changed from a wet, shiny gloss to a matte, velvety black. The smell of the wet paper and the metallic tang of the ink filled her senses. "You see?" Simeon said softly, dipping his own pen. "The ink does not hesitate. It flows where you guide it. It does not worry about whether the line is a masterpiece. It simply exists." He drew a perfect curve, an O. Now, curves. The body breathes in on the upstroke and out on the downstroke. Sync your lungs with the nib. Elara tried. Inhale, upstroke, thin line, scritch. Exhale, downstroke, thick line, scratch. It was difficult at first. Her brain wanted to rush to get to the end of the page, but the quill forced her to slow down. If she moved too fast, the ink splattered. If she pressed too hard, the paper tore. The tool demanded respect. It demanded presence. Slowly, the knot in her chest began to loosen. She wasn't a failed writer anymore.
She was just a hand moving ink across paper. There was no plot to figure out, no characters to develop, just the rhythm. Dip, breathe, stroke, lift. Time dissolved. The candle burned down an inch, dripping wax onto the brass holder. The rain outside became a distant white noise, a blanket wrapping around the scriptorium. Elara was no longer thinking. She was in the zone. Her hand moved with a fluid grace she hadn't felt in years. She wasn't writing words yet, but she was making shapes, loops, arches, waves. The page was becoming a tapestry of abstract patterns. She watched the wet ink glistening. It felt like she was pouring her anxiety out of her fingertips and trapping it in the black lines. Once it was on the paper, it wasn't inside her anymore. Simeon watched her from across the desk. He saw the change. Her shoulders were down. Her breathing was deep and rhythmic. Her eyes were no longer frantic. They were focused, soft, hypnotic. The mind is like a glass of muddy water, Simeon whispered, echoing an ancient wisdom. You cannot clear it by stirring it. You must let it sit. The mud settles. The water becomes clear. Elara stopped at the bottom of the page. She looked at what she had done. It wasn't a novel. It was just a page of lines and circles. But it was beautiful. It was orderly. It was proof that she could still create something, even if it was just a shadow on paper. She looked up at Simeon. Her eyes were heavy with a pleasant exhaustion. It's quiet, she whispered. The voices, they stopped screaming. They didn't stop, Simeon smiled gently. You just stopped listening to them and started listening to the pen. He reached for a new sheet of paper. Now, he said, now that the mud has settled, perhaps we can write one true word. Simeon placed a fresh sheet of paper on the desk. It was different from the practice sheets. It was heavy, cream-colored vellum with gold edges that caught the flicker of the candlelight. You have tamed the hand, Simeon whispered. You have quieted the mind. Now the vessel is clean. He reached for a small jar he hadn't touched all night. It was made of blue glass. He opened it. Inside was ink that shimmered with flecks of real gold. Dip, he commanded softly. Elara dipped the swan quill into the gold ink. It coated the nib in a layer of liquid sunlight. Write one word, Simeon said. Not a plot, not a character, just one word that you need to hear right now. One word that is true. Elara hovered the pen over the paper. She waited. She didn't search her brain. She listened to her heart. The anxiety that had screamed at her for months was gone, replaced by a deep, resonant hum of peace. She lowered the nib. Scritch, swoosh. She wrote, "Breathe." The letters flowed out of her, elegant and strong. The gold ink sat high on the paper, glistening in the dim light. It wasn't just a word. It was a command. It was a promise. She stared at it. The word looked alive. It looked profound. "Breathe," she whispered aloud. The simple act she had forgotten to do. Simeon smiled. It was the smile of a gardener seeing a flower bloom after a long winter. "Keep it," he said. "Pin it above your desk. When the noise returns, and it will return, for the world is loud, look at this word. Remember the friction of the pen. Remember the sound of the scratch. It will bring you back to this moment." He took the swan quill from her hand. He wiped it clean with a soft cloth. Then he placed it in a wooden box along with a small bottle of the deep black ink. "Take these," Simeon said, pushing the box towards her. "You do not need to write a masterpiece tomorrow. You just need to make ink. Grind the stone, smell the earth, make lines. The words will follow the ink, just as the river follows the bed." Elara touched the wooden box. She felt a surge of gratitude so strong it made her eyes sting. She hadn't found the plot for her next novel tonight, but she had found something far more important. She had found her composure. "Thank you, Simeon," she said, her voice steady and clear. I think I can write again." "Not tonight," Simeon admonished gently. "Tonight you sleep. The ink needs to dry." Elara put on her coat. It was warm now, dried by the fire. She stepped out of the heavy oak door. The storm had passed. The rain had stopped, leaving the cobblestones of Ravenport slick and shining like mirrors under the street lamps. The fog had rolled in, wrapping the city in a soft, white blanket. Elara walked home. The city was silent. There were no carriages, no shouting, no noise, just the sound of her own footsteps. She held the wooden box tight against her side. She felt light, as if she were made of paper and air. The heavy burden of expectation had been left behind in the scriptorium, dissolved in the inkwell. She reached her apartment. She didn't turn on the bright lights. She lit a single candle. She placed the vellum with the golden word, "Breathe," on her nightstand. She lay down. For the first time in a year, her mind wasn't racing with plot holes or deadlines. It was replaying the sound of the quill. The rhythm lulled her. She closed her eyes and saw the black ink swirling, turning into dreams. Back in the scriptorium, Simeon began his closing ritual. He cleaned the slate stone. He washed the brushes. He capped the jars of gold and blue. The room was still warm, smelling of cedar and accomplishment. Simeon walked to the drying rack and looked at Elara's practice sheets, rows and rows of black lines. To anyone else, it looked like scribbles. To him, it looked like a healing process. He moved to the large candle that had been burning all night. It was low now, the wax pooled at the base. He looked around his kingdom of books and scrolls. The stories were all asleep. The words were resting between the covers. Simeon took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of the library. "It is finished," he whispered to the shadows. He leaned forward and blew out the candle. The smoke curled up into the darkness, a thin gray ribbon dancing in the moonlight. The scriptorium plunged into a peaceful, velvet darkness. And in the heart of the quiet city, amidst the smell of ink and old paper, the calligrapher closed his eyes, his work done, drifting into the deep, silent space between the lines.
And so, our story comes to a gentle close. May your mind be calm and your dreams be kind. If you're still listening, we'll be waiting for you here again with another story from Midnight Murmurs Studio. Until then, sleep well.